this point, I feel like the gods are against me. I'm starting the biggest project yet, starting the electrical system.
Hey, I'm Issa and I'm learning to convert this van all by myself while traveling out of it as much as possible.
Here is the sliding door. Here is the doorstop. Just that little tiny thing. So it's holding this nicely in place. Just a sliver of room between where the blind structure meets and the flare pops out at. This actually rolls on and off the stop super easy, which is nice, but I think I'd like a little bit of CYA. We'll do one more. In the never-ending saga of flare space, I just noticed this because I'm starting to plan for my bed. Here is my beloved Arctic turn window. Love the window. Love the window. So the slider window makes absolutely sense. I actually really like that one too because you're not going to want an awning window where you have your sliding door. These windows do not lie even. You might be able to tell better if you look at the amount from the bottom. Now these windows are not the same size, but they're close enough. This window sits higher. You have more space for a bed and mattress compared to where you're gonna start your bed frame. This one does not. This one is about 4 inches from the top, where the top of the window starts. The sliding window is 2.5 inches. So why? I would reach out to FlareSpace and ask them, but the likelihood of hearing back, in my experience, has been about 50-50. This is not something that is changeable. I could take the flares out, but God knows that's not going to happen. Getting an answer is not going to change anything, so that would just be a waste of breath and time. But it is something I think to take note of. It does provide a few extra inches, but so far I feel like they really aren't worth it, and that they were a huge, huge expense for me to take on for the hassle they've provided. Good morning. It might be a little noisy because we're next to a road, and right now we're at a trailhead because I'm training Riker to get used to people and things and dogs and noises and not lose it. I thought the flare space was big. I think this next project is Mundo. I think that yes, I could have learned all of the things I needed to learn. I did a lot of research. But what I've ultimately decided to do is work with a company who modeled my system after the needs that I had and what I planned on using it for, how much I was drawing. I actually added more battery than they suggested just in case. And so again, this is a how I do, this is not a how to do. So consult a professional, which is exactly what I have done. So they've given me all of the items that I need. They've given me the schematics I need, the how-to, and they're also just a phone call away if I have some major questions. So that is the next project we're working on. So we are going to just enjoy a bit of this morning training. I got 3 boxes from AM Solar. This baby beefy. Cool, so this is my inverter charger thing. You see why I have to pay professionals? And this is a whole bunch of stuff. So my mom gave him this. He's king for a day. Hour and a half just to inventory check the box. It's a bunch. One is to put the inlet port here as well as the ZAMP external port here for extra solar panels, and then to put the chassis ground here. So I tried to cut this sound mat that came from the factory out. It's not going to come out, so I'm going to have to drill through that. I'm going to do a pilot hole first just to see where my stuff is going to go and take it from there. Okay, so I just put a little mark here, and this is the hub that's eventually going to go through the circle, so I'm just kind of pretend fitting like this. So here's my test hole. I made sure that the door doesn't go this far. I checked to the other side. There's nothing over there. Anticlimactic. I learned a little more about hole saws recently as well. Learned to go in slow, but at a high speed. For the life of me, I cannot get the hole saw in. I cannot. It will not. I don't know what the problem is. I've decided I'm just gonna poke a bunch of holes through. Plan B. I'm going to use my good old, well-loved jig and drill, because I think what it is my hole saw is already dull. I've used it once. I think the van gods hate me. I'm pretty sure that this hole saw is just completely worthless, but I want to show you a trick to get the hole saw if you can't get it off your mandrel. Mine has these slots in it, so I just take a screwdriver, anything straight so you can give yourself leverage. And then I'm using a crescent wrench on the other side, and I've got it fit, and I already loosened this a little bit, but if your mandrel gets stuck, that way you're holding this stuck without using this steady without using your hands, you can get your mandrel off that way. So I'm gonna drill the pilot hole now for the external solar panel hookup. Now I'm just gonna hope that this hole saw is nicer to me than the other one. Oh, that's a relief, because that was a smaller hole, and if that was hard to deal with, I have no idea what I would have done. Oh, you know what? I could have probably done the step bit all the way through that one. That's an option. Now, just some more filing and painting. So I pre-drilled all my holes. I still have to paint this side port here, but I figure I'm just gonna get the rest of the metal away. So I saw a trick for using compressed air. /3 wire. I think it means 10 gauge with 3 strands. I might be pronouncing it wrong. I've seen how far in this is gonna go, so I'm just gonna gently strip this because it doesn't fit into this inlet. Ooh, this is tough. So there's insulation here, so I don't need this part. I can cut this off. Oh, is that like a fiberglass, I wonder? That's what's in the insulation. I thought it was just newspaper, which did seem very strange for insulation, but I'm not the expert here. Oh, look what else I learned. So I'm gonna open my blade. You can still use it, just flip it around to the other half. Yes, cuts a lot better with a sharp blade. So I needed to do more here. Fully included kit. It doesn't contain heat shrink for this aspect. It's meant to fit into this inlet, and that's part of the kit. Also, screws are not included with the inlet kit. What can you do? I decided to use this heat shrink that I had from the fuel line protector. There's screws on the side I'm gonna loosen up, and then I'll screw back down to adhere the wire. Even the screws are colored, which is nice. I'm just marking where I need to strip it. Pretty perfect. So I'm gonna mark that spot on each of them and cut that much off of each. So this part is the part that cuts. That's what I'm lining up with the little cut mark I just made, and then it pulls it off. And then I'm just twisting them You want stranded wire, and that's what this is, rather than, what's it called? Firm wire? Because it rides out vibrations better than whatever not stranded wire is. So I'm going to heat shrink this here. Here is where we are at. I had to strip this off longer and add more shrink wrap because the one I have is too small. I also accidentally cut a little bit on the black wire, so I added extra shrink wrap to that. I didn't cut it bad. But here's the thing. The inlet device is not working. The positive, I believe is the white one, was not syncing, and so I had to take the whole thing apart, and it all just kind of spilled out. I got the little clamp thing working now, but it wasn't actually connected, which is why it wasn't working in there. But now I have to figure out which is which, because they fell out and I couldn't keep it in place. So I know which is which also because of the colors, and then this has colors on the back, so I need to make sure the right screw corresponds. So I have my green, black, white, actually silver, but I'm going to make sure that corresponds. I'm going to pop it back into this housing so that the screws correspond to the ground, the positive, and the negative there. So all my screws I have access to appropriately. So now that it's set back in there, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to screw back in these that I had to take out to make it work. Yesterday was a very unfun day. A few things. The main port for this inner part, was defective. And then these screws, this is actually not in right now. These are not going in. This gasket is catching. So I have to take this out. I've got new bolts and put the solar port in, and hopefully that's the day. What I ended up doing was using number 6 stainless steel bolts with a number 6 washer and a number 6 nylon nut. Although my instructions called for number 8 screws, the bolts wouldn't fit through, and I actually wanted to secure it with a washer and a bolt. I could not do that with a screw. This here is butyl tape, so I wish I had shown you, but it technically was all covered by the gasket outside, but I wanted to kind of come in and just adhere that a little better, seal that off. So now, let's do the solar port. Okay, so I'm basically going to do what just worked for the electrical port, and I'm just going to use a number 8 screw to kind of thread that thin middle there, just enough for the number 6 to fit through. I put some butyl tape just around the inside there, just barely, to give it just a little bit more protection rather than just this. There's not a lot of information I could find about installing these actual ZAMP ports, so this is the best information I can work with. I'll work on the nuts in the back now. I'll show you my technique for holding one screw and putting the nut on the other side. It's not enjoyable. A little bit of butyl has come out the side, so I'm just using this tool that came with my Easy Cool and just getting a little extra off there, and then I'm gonna go around with silicone. Next, I'm going to create a ground. And so I have this 6-gauge wire, and this is what was sent to me per my schematics for ground wire. So I have a 6-gauge lug ring 3/8 is what it says. This is a 6-gauge wire. So I need to cut this back so I can put this in and heat shrink it. And you know what? Just realized I need to crimp it too. I think this is the first time we're gonna use the hammer crimp. So the way the hammer crimper works is you just put your thing in, then you just pound the stuff out of it. Well, that's cute. I put a little plus sign on it. It must be in there pretty good, because I'm giving it a good tug. A couple more for good measure, right? I saved my sanding paper that I can't use much, but that still has like good sanding whatever. So that's what I'm going to use to sand down. So I don't know if this is good or not, but what I've done is I took one of my circular magnets and I taped it up, and then I taped it onto the vacuum handle. And I need to drill here, but I'm trying to lessen the amount of metal that goes everywhere. Hopefully all the metal will just go into the hose. I'm starting with a 1/4-inch drill bit. This is actually going to be really hard, I realize. I'm not sure how well it worked, but I mean, there is metal that was caught on the magnet. And if it wasn't clear, I started with a smaller pilot hole and moved up to the 5/16 drill bit. And I could have done that immediately. I was just wary that would have made it too big, even though I needed a 5/16 hole for a 5/16 bolt. I was still nervous. Here's a close-up of the chassis ground. So I had used a Dremel, this handy new tool, this grinding bit. I was able to sand the paint away. This was when I was messing with the metal file. So I'm going to do some touch-up paint, and how this is secured is a 5/16 bolt, 5/16 washer, and then that is sandwiched on the other side by another washer, then a lock washer, and then the nut. Chassis ground is in, electric in, and additional solar is in. I think it turned out all right. I like the look. They're in there. They're in solid. How they look on the van. That's the sliding door. I really like that I put them in this spot as well, because I was able to do the reach around through here, and I put them in a spot that the sliding door, if I ever were to open it up all the way, would not block them if I wanted the door open and I'm charging one or the other. So I'm going to wrap this video up with that being the first part of my electric build. I once again did not get as much done as I was hoping to. Things took much longer than I thought. I made a lot more trips to Home Depot than I planned, but I have a Dremel and I wish I bought one sooner. So very happy about that. Till the next time, I don't have a sign off. So thanks for watching. Bye. Hi.
You almost ready?
God, no.
Taking a lot longer than you thought?
Wire is heavy. None of that recorded. Don't cut yourself. Put the solar pole there. That didn't work. Now I feel better about life. You can't see a dang thing I'm doing. I'm going to wrap it up when that plane wraps it up. I mean, it's not as fast.